So let me put it this way. My father left home when I was just about to get into university. My father and my mom, they really fell apart, and my father left home. And he left home to be with another woman, a woman who was my mom's friend. So it was really, really a low blow for my mom. It was our neighbor. And I have two beautiful stepsisters now from that relationship. I'm not sure they're not watching, but I'm close to them. So when my father left, he really left. There was no sustenance. So my mom had 5 kids. She had no job. She had nothing. And my father just walked away. And I was just getting into university at the time. All my other siblings were still either in high school or they just finished. So it was tough. My mom almost went crazy. My mom would go to the abattoir to hustle for meat, bring scraps home for us to eat. There was no job my mom did not do. There was no job. She was just a fighter. My mom is fierce. She comes to, some people see her and they see her. My mom is not gentle. Up till today, I can't win an argument. Even if she's wrong, she will fight me over that. But that fighting spirit was what kept us. My mom did not walk away from us. She had 5 children with no job. She would go out in the morning, come back in the night with food. Whether it's scraps, whether it is, wherever, we don't care. I know she wasn't committing crime, and she would never prostitute herself, but there was food on the table for 5 kids. And she did that year after year, and she knew my father was cheating, and my father was with another woman. And it was just unfortunate. My father was a good man, a very good man, but life, the way life happens, sometimes when life happens, good people misbehave. So by the time I was becoming more mature, my father wasn't around, and I was not happy with him. I was not happy that he was not supportive. A lot of the things I wanted, throughout my adolescence, my father wasn't there. I was in university, I was struggling, my father wasn't there. My father never paid for my school fees. My school fees was paid for by my Sunday school teacher. My father wasn't around. All my exams, everything. So, apart from high school, primary school, and a bit of high school, he wasn't there. And we would see him. That's the most annoying thing. We would see him around with another woman. And I think that really hurt, And so I had this resentment for my father. Oh, man. Daniel read my book, and one day Daniel came and said, "You punched your dad?" Yes, it's in the book. I wrote how I went into a physical altercation with my father at the bus stop. And I'm not proud of it, but we exchanged blows, because I was just not happy with him. I wouldn't say I hated him, but yes, it was just a low point, because a few times he would come home, he would beat up my mom. And I remember the last day he laid his hands on my mom, I held him by the neck. And I was not happy, I was not happy. I was never, home was not a happy place for me, to be honest. I preferred school, and that's why I never came back home once I left at the age of 14. Never liked it. But I remember a conversation I had with my dad. My father came to my campus on the university, and we were walking. And I told him, I said, I don't have a relationship with you. By that time, I was bold enough to look at him. And I said, and he tried to rationalize and explain things. And now I understand. Now that I'm a father, I understand some of his challenges. And by no means will I bring him down. I know he has, at the core of him, he was good, but of course he made wrong choices. And they didn't handle it well. They didn't know better. There was no counseling. There was no support. And I think that really affected their marriage. But my father, we would never got along. And just to bring this point to a close, as I don't know who read that book, chapter, I think it was Biola. My father became ill. So shortly after my father came back, after 2 kids, he came back home. And still yet my mom accepted him.
Give him a round of applause. It's not easy to sit on a stage and open up your whole life and tell people publicly about it.
Sorry, I'm very emotional, but, I remember those conversations while my father was in hospital. I was a doctor when my father came back. I was surprised my mom would accept him. And he came back, shortly after he came back, he became sick. So we never really enjoyed him. He came back sick. He came back broken. He came back old. He came back. I just saw him. I wasn't proud of him, man. He looked so old. He was 61 at the time. He looked unhappy. The woman actually had, I think, used him, and he probably was scared of that woman. So he came back wasted. He had nothing. He had nowhere to go. No self-esteem. You could see my father. I said, this confident, Ikalema. He would be crying. He was depressed. He was broken. He had no money. He had nothing. He had a small business, printing press, which he was but he couldn't contribute. He was broken. And I felt bad for him. No wonder he had diabetes for a long time, never went to a doctor, never did anything. And, my mom accepted him back, and he came home, and we tried to get along. He was never the same. And then he fell ill, and we had to take him to the hospital, and we basically nursed him. He just, he was in hospital for about 4 months, and every day you could see him just deteriorating. But my mom stood there. My mom slept.
Your mom's an incredible woman.
Yeah, she really is. She slept in the ward on the floor for months.
Well, I think if there's anything that we can say, your mum, I believe that there's a bit of your mum inside you, and that's what's lit the fire inside you today to do all that you've done. Love to meet your mother. She sounds absolutely...
Yeah, she wanted to be here. She bought her ticket. She canceled it 2 days ago when, Tasmania introduced a few restrictions. She didn't want to get stuck here because my sister really needs her in Tasmania. So, I'm sure my sister was crying this morning because she also wanted to be here. They wanted to be here for me. But it wasn't to be, but hopefully they're watching now. But I think my mom doesn't get as much credit, she doesn't get as much credit. She's different, she's tough, and she's emotionally numb. But we will go through that and not feel that. We will go through beatings. I saw my father beat my mom. My father had beaten pregnancy, 6 months pregnancy out of my mom. I'm talking about violent beatings. Whipped her. This way, I'm not telling you fables. I'm not telling you things she told me. My father would beat my mom to a pulp with blows and everything. And he wasn't drunk. He was just a very angry, unhappy man. He just took it out on her all the time. And still yet, he went away, made 2 babies, came back home, and she still, I think that to me is love. Love sometimes is not only expressed by perfect people. You don't have to be perfect. My mom is not perfect. My mom doesn't have a university degree. But my mom has a heart. And she took this man back, and she took him back when he was gone. He had no money, he had nothing, he was sick. She nursed him. The first time I ever heard my father confess love to my mom, it was with a frail, old voice. I think he knew he was dying. I was there when he held my hands and said, Oluremi, I love you. I never heard that from my father before. And my mom broke into tears. I was there right there. She was crying, holding his hands. Well, not too long ago, after that, he passed away. I've answered your question enough. Hey.
You have definitely answered my question, Dr.
I need a glass of water, please.